everybody. I want you to think about that question you got asked as a kid. What do you want to be when you grow up? There's so many different answers we had, whether it was astronaut, doctor, teacher, or maybe you were like my husband and just answered dinosaur. Whatever it is you wanted to be, you had dreams about your roles, your responsibilities, what you thought your life would be like. I can't lie to you and say that I thought ministry would be where my life would be. Instead, I had different plans. As I went to college, I went into a field that was math, and I loved it. It was exactly what I wanted to study. I enjoyed it. It was challenging. I graduated with that degree, and I came home unexpectedly. There were ways that being at home, it was good for me. I had time to study for these exams. But I started to feel a lack of peace. The Lord has always spoken to me by not giving me peace. Those are the times when I know I'm not doing what He wants me to do. So as I was struggling with this feeling, why is this not what I want to do anymore? Why does it not feel right? I leaned into Him and I started praying. I spent time going on trips, trying to get to know what He wanted me to do with my life. And so as I leaned into this, He opened the door for ministry. After growing up as a preacher's kid, this is not what I wanted at all. I actually probably ran the other direction. I wanted to be as far away from it as I could. I know the hard and the good that goes into being in a ministry. So, instead of running anymore, a few years ago, I decided to take a small step forward by doing an internship. During this time, I was able to find out just what it looks like to be in children's ministry. And the Lord showed me so clearly that there is so much that happens, and it is so good. And He called me into that life. I was able to step into a role and a responsibility that I never really wanted, but He was equipping me for. Over the years, I was able to learn skills, talents, abilities that were all coming from Him that helped me to go into ministry. Again, after a few years, I started to feel that lack of peace. I didn't understand because I thought I had given up everything. I gave up a career that would make lots of money. I moved back to a town that I didn't think I would be in. And now you're giving me this feeling again that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing in my life. So I leaned in. Again, I started praying and fasting and trying to figure out what He wanted me to do. Where would my next step of obedience have to be in following His plan? There are times in your life that God is going to speak to you. He's going to speak through other people, circumstances, scripture. For me, it was Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not in your own understanding. This scripture came up in a sermon. It came up in a daily devotional. It came up in an encouraging word from a friend. It came up in a kid's story that I was reading with my nephews over and over and over. It was simple. Trust in the Lord. He just wanted me to trust in Him, not worry about the details, not worry about what the next step was, but to trust in Him, even if it didn't make sense, even if no one else understood. As I was beginning to take that step, the door opened here at Poplar Springs. I began talking and having the conversations with the people, meeting with Griffin and Chris, and we talked about what this would be like. But to be honest with you, fear set in again. I had this feeling that it wasn't quite time yet. So, in a way that was confusing for everyone, I ended up pausing and staying where I was for a little bit longer. And shortly after, there was a need for me to be where I was. But a few months later, it ended up being, again, that feeling. There isn't peace. This isn't where you're supposed to be. And it was the hardest time for me in having to lean into the Lord and just say, if you want me to do this, I will. I'll be obedient. I will step into this new place, this new role, and I trust that you'll open the doors if I just follow in what you want me to do. And a long story short, the Lord opened those doors. He was working this far before I even knew what was happening. His plans are good, and it is a role that I've stepped into here now as the children's minister. For almost a year, I've been able to be here, to pour into your kids' lives, into the families' lives, and to see how good He is. But that wouldn't have been possible without trusting in the Lord. It didn't make sense to me, not when I was younger, not when I was dreaming of what I wanted to be. There's many days now, it doesn't always make sense. But I know that I can trust in Him and He will not lead me astray. Just as He is leading each and every one of us in our own lives, what place is He leading you? Is it a new step in your career? Is it just changing something that happens at home? There's always something He wants us to do if we're just obedient. I'm praying for you as you lean into the Lord and figure out what He wants you to do to be obedient and to follow His will.